A reminder of our top story. Lebanon is marking 1 year since a deadly blast at the port of Beirut. Our special coverage continues with Nadia Massih in Beirut. Nadia?
Kate, thank you, and good afternoon from Beirut. We are exactly a year since the most devastating explosion ever hit this city. Hundreds of people killed, thousands wounded, and billions of dollars of damage in a country that was already virtually bankrupt. Now, a year on, no one has been charged, no one has been held accountable for what happened at the port, and many of the same politicians who were presiding over the crisis last year are still effectively in charge today. Now, coming up in this special programme, we're going to look at what efforts have been made to rebuild this city. But before we get to that and our guests, let's look back at the events of the 4th of August 2020 that began at 6:07 in the evening.
It was just after 6 p.m. on Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. After a loud explosion at Beirut's port, these residents began filming what they thought was a simple fire. But the worst was still to come. A second shock felt all the way in northern Israel and Cyprus. In the Lebanese capital, no one was left untouched.
It was a terrifying moment. For 3 minutes, I didn't understand what was happening. I saw blood on my face, but I saw people around me who were far more hurt.
I've already seen frightening things, but nothing like what I saw today. I've never been so scared in my life.
Aerial footage shows the extent of the damage. Destruction which left tens of thousands homeless. The death toll would quickly climb to over 200, with more than 7,000 others injured. Shock quickly turned to anger as the world learned the cause of the blast. 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate stored at a warehouse in the city's port. The highly explosive substance was stocked without proper safety measures, and authorities had known about it for years. In a country already plagued by corruption and economic crisis, the latest scandal was too much to bear.
It's been a while since we had any trust in our government.
All of these incompetent people in charge need to be held accountable. They're guilty of a crime against humanity.
French President Emmanuel Macron visited the city calling for political renewal. The international community pledged nearly $300 million in aid to be distributed directly to the Lebanese people. Faced with growing anger, Prime Minister Hassan Diab resigned but remained on as the head of a caretaker government. Since then, Lebanon has been in political deadlock, and the country's official investigation into the explosion has yet to deliver any conclusions.
Reporting for us there a little earlier on. Now I want to welcome to the programme the civil society activist and journalist Lynn Tehini. Lynn, thanks for joining us today here on France 24. First of all, I want to ask you, we are a year after that explosion. I know you were here not far away from the port when the explosion took place. Tell us a little bit about what happened to you and how you're feeling today on the anniversary.
I feel very mad. I feel very sad, like most of the citizens, Lebanese citizens, because the most important question hasn't been answered yet, and it is what about the truth? What really happened? Who are the guilty people in charge? Who were in charge and who did nothing? I'm very mad, and I guess this is the main feeling we're all having today on the ground.
And protests are going to be taking place. In fact, they're actually starting just around us at the moment. Will you be taking part in the protest today? And if so, what's your message to the Lebanese leaders in Parliament?
Of course, I'll take part, and I invite everyone, every person, every Lebanese citizen who loves his country to take part today in the huge gathering that will take place here, a few meters away. The message is: we're waiting for the truth. We will never forget. We will never forgive. But in order to move forward, we need to have answers.
And so it is, in your view, then, the politicians that bear some degree of responsibility for what happened here at the port?
Of course, I guess people usually, when you're in charge, even though you're in charge, you're responsible. This is the main. It's part of their mission, their responsibility, and today they have to react positively to the request of the judge that has been investigating on the ground.
All right, now I want to talk a little bit, Lynn, about your personal story, because you're a former senior advisor to the culture ministry here in Lebanon. you quit the Culture Ministry after the explosion. Tell us and our viewers why you did that.
Okay, I've been a senior advisor at the Ministry of Culture for the past 8 years. And after the explosion, when I saw that nothing was being done, I have to say something very important, maybe viewers doesn't know, but the main area that has been impacted is the area where you have the highest numbers of creative industries, artists live in, heritage homes. So this was the heart of Beirut. And when we used to say that Beirut never sleeps, it was this part of the city. So when I saw that the ministry in charge of all these cultural assets wasn't reacting, I could not do something and help my, other citizens on the ground. And I wanted to say one more thing. Even though I know the government today is saying no money, I'm sorry, but there are other possibilities or other ways to support the population. You can stand by them. You can ask for the staff of the ministry to come. You can do some official assessments in order to rehabilitate and reconstruct.
Well, let me ask you about that, because it was reported widely after the explosion that we didn't really see anybody from the state, from government, in these neighborhoods that you're talking about, in these historic neighborhoods of Gemmayzeh, of Mar Mikhael. Is that your experience in the past year, that the state has not been involved in the reconstruction of Beirut?
Unfortunately, yes, the state hasn't been involved, beside the army, and I have to say that the army has done the maximum, but it's not the duty or the job of the army to rebuild a whole city. It's not the job of the NGOs to rebuild the city, but they have been doing that for the past year, rebuilding all kinds of buildings, supporting the population, all kinds of supports, and unfortunately the government has been totally absent of the reconstruction that has been done for the past year.
All right, Lynn Tehini, thank you very much indeed. We're going to come back to you in a few minutes' time. But in the meantime, I want to bring you a report from our special correspondents, Cyril Payan and Bilal Tarabi. They've been looking at what's been happening in the northern city of Tripoli. Now there, some Lebanese people have been trying to leave the country by boat, such as the degree of economic problems in that city. Let's have a look then at their report.
Tripoli is Lebanon's second largest city and its poorest. It is also the departure point for more and more Lebanese leaving their country by sea. Left with few options, they climb aboard boats, risking their lives. Mohammed had made it to Cyprus by boat, but ended up being deported.
Listen to what I'm telling you. Life does not get any harder than living under this government. If my options are to stay here or go and drown in the sea, what do you think I'll choose? Of course, I'll choose the sea and death. It's true that lately people are getting on boats without a second thought. The only fear they really have is for this government.
There's nothing for us in this country. No medicine, no milk, nothing for my poor son who is ill.
Mohammed is now back to square one. This humble dwelling in the Mina neighborhood is where he lives with his wife and their 7 children. And life is a daily struggle for them.
The government doesn't care if my children are educated or if they get the best start in life. They just wipe their feet on us, generation after generation. They're crushing the people. In Europe, everyone respects the law because leaders themselves respect the law. But here, the children of those in power drive around in nice cars, while our children are being sacrificed.
The next chance he gets, Mohammed will again try to leave, fleeing his homeland, and with the sense that the only hope lies elsewhere.
All right, welcome back to our special programme here in Beirut. I'm still with Lynn Tehini. Lynn, thanks for staying with us. We just heard that report from Tripoli talking about Lebanese citizens who are trying to leave the country. Now, is that something you here in Beirut have experienced? We've heard a lot in the past about the brain drain. Do you know people that are leaving? Are you considering leaving yourself?
After the explosion, most of the people around me have left the country, unfortunately. The phenomenon has started years before, but now we have seen it increasing dramatically, especially after the explosion, especially because of the economical crisis. The thing is, I'm considering leaving too for my kids. We haven't had school for 2 years. Now there's a huge crisis, electricity crisis. We do not know if schools will reopen their doors. We do not know where we're going. There's a devaluation of the lira. So unfortunately, yes, we've seen a lot of students trying to leave the country. It's difficult for them. We've been talking to embassies. More than 30,000 people applied for visas in the first trimester for Canada in the first few months of 2021. So the number is huge, and unfortunately, it's increasing dramatically.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the work that you've been doing here on reconstruction in this part of Beirut. We're talking about these historic neighborhoods of Jumeirah, of Mar Mikhael, that were very badly hit during the explosion. Tell us, it's been estimated, I believe, that the reconstruction should cost something like $15 billion. How much of that how much of that has happened, and how much is there still to do a year on?
Okay, as for the heritage buildings, according to the General Directorate of Antiquities, more than 650 buildings were impacted by the explosion, and the cost is evaluated. I'm talking about heritage buildings, and when I say heritage building, according to their criteria, are buildings that are built before 1930. So it's $300 million, the amount that was evaluated by the DGA. The thing is, it's a huge amount. We're very far for a lot of reasons. First of all, because heritage building costs a lot. When you're rebuilding a modern building, it's less money. Second, because countries haven't supported Lebanon. I know there's a conference, and there has been a first conference to support Lebanon. But if we don't have a new government, there won't be any kind of support. I'm going to say it frankly, and I guess everyone knows. So for the moment, the only people supporting the reconstruction are the Lebanese diaspora that is outside Lebanon, and local people that are supporting local NGOs.
Now, on the question of reconstruction of these historic buildings, something you've worked on for a long time, if I was to play devil's advocate here, I might say, look, 300,000 people lost their homes in the explosion. Why are you prioritizing these heritage buildings frankly, in a wealthy part of the city? What's your response?
It's not about buildings. It's about life. It's about the life of the city, and it's about the life in the heart of Beirut. We are not only rebuilding the heritage buildings, we are encouraging these peoples to come back to their homes. We are supporting these small businesses that were inside these heritage buildings, and we are also protecting the social tissue. People have been living here for decades. Some of them have inherited their homes for more than 100 years. So the thing is, we want life. We are rebuilding. We do not want to lose the identity of Beirut. Beirut is the city of life, and we want to try as much as we can to get it back.
And do you fear that the historic character of Beirut may actually be lost forever? I mean, we can see around us many high-rise buildings, a sort of gentrification of East Beirut. Is that something you worry about?
Of course, and that's why we are battling against all these huge buildings you've been seeing, because these buildings, they change the identity of the city. You'll see another kind of people living, maybe rich people, some elite. It's not what we want. We want the city to get back to what it was. Of course, it won't happen if we don't have the truth about what happened with the explosion. We will rebuild, but rebuilding without getting to know the truth about what happened, we'll have something missing. The aim of Beirut won't be there.
All right, Lynn, we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed, Lynn Tehini, for talking to us on the programme. Now, underpinning everything we've been talking about here on the programme today is the enormous economic crisis that Lebanon is experiencing. The Lebanese pound has lost about 90% of its value in the past 2 years. Now, our colleagues Sally Farhat and Zaina Antonias have been looking at one particular issue, and that's the rising cost of petrol and how little petrol there is in the country. Let's have a look at their report.
Ali is a cab driver in Lebanon. He spends half his working hours waiting at gas stations in long lines like this one.
أنا بوقف مرتين بالنهار طبيعي لأن أنا تاكسي. على محطة البنزين بدك توقف ساعة، ساعة ونص. وأيام بتوقف على محطة الساعة والساعة ونص ما بيلحقك دور.
Fuel is not just scarce. Its prices have gone through the roof. Lebanon's government is nearly bankrupt and had to lift partial fuel subsidies. As a result, it now imports fuel at the exchange rate of 3,900 liras for $1 instead of 1,500 liras. For Ali, the surge of gasoline price is not looking very good.
امبارح معبى ب100,000 بنزين. عامل فيهم شي 150,000. اليوم رحت عبيت رجعت فولت 65,000 يعني كل الصفيلة. امبارح خسارة انه طلع لي 50,000 يعني اكل وشرب لناكل ببيتي. عندي عائلة و4 أولاد صعبة.
Economist Jihad Al-Hkayem explains that the fuel shortages also impact businesses in different sectors.
The problem is not that we need our cars and to fill the gasoline, to fill our cars, to fill the tanks with gasoline. The problem is broader. So it's going to affect hospitalization, it's going to affect tourists, it's going to affect the whole economy. All goods are going to be subject to an increase in prices because for transportation, in order to transport the goods from one place to another, you need diesel.
In the face of the crisis, people have had to invent alternatives. Ahmad walks daily to a cafe near his home instead of going to work.
أنا بشتغل بشركة ببدارو، بشتغل currently من هون من هيدا الكافيه لأن ما معي بنزين بكفي لروح بالموتو تبعيتي واشتغل من الأوفيس تبعنا.
Lebanon's fuel crisis further threatens the country's already struggling economy, shaking even further citizens' confidence in Lebanon's ability to come out of its worst economic crisis.
All right, that report wraps it up for this programme from Beirut. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I'll hand you back now to our teams in Paris, and we'll be bringing you more live coverage throughout the afternoon and the evening. So do stay with us here on France 24.